The first thing that completely changed my life in regards to being consistent was actually allowing somebody to keep me accountable. You would think it would be some type of app or some type of physical planner. And I specifically use the word somebody because it's very easy for me to let my app down, say, well, I can just turn you off. I'm just going to mute you for another day. And I've tried all the apps. I mean, I've put money into some of these things. And it all pales in comparison to having a real human being that knows what my goals are, that understands how I'm trying to get there. And for me, I prefer to work with other humans in these kind of things. I find that AI, it's very, very unpredictable. It makes a lot of things up still. I feel like it's a threat to someone's creativity and their actual innovation in their business. And the threat is that me as a business owner, that I can lean on that and think that just because it gives me answers, I can think that automatically those are the right answers.
Today we sit down with Kenneth Kollasch, founder of Kenneth Coaches, a third-generation entrepreneur helping service business owners ditch the chaos of wearing every hat and turn their independent side gig into a business built to scale. In this episode, Kenneth reveals why most business owners are sabotaging their own growth, the 6-part blueprint he uses to double revenue in under 2 years, and the uncomfortable truth about why the biggest bottleneck in your business might be staring back at you in the mirror.
Welcome to the Inevitable Cast, where we talk operator to operator about how businesses actually execute, what really happens between the vision and the result. This episode is sponsored by Inevitable Flow. Inevitable Flow helps founders and executive teams fix their pipeline, automate the busy work, and build predictable revenue engines so growth doesn't depend on referrals, luck, or the founder doing everything. The link is in the description of the show if you'd like to book a call. Today, I'm joined by Kenneth Kollasch. Kenneth is a third-generation entrepreneur, a certified business and life coach, and the author of Beating Average. He spent 14 years inside a century-old family franchise before building his own practice. And now he takes premium service businesses out of the mom and pop running on instinct phase and into systems that actually scale. Kenneth, welcome to the Inevitable Cast.
Man, I feel like you should go with me everywhere I go. That was the best intro that I could have gotten. Thank you. It's super great to be here.
It is great to have you on the show. So you're a third generation entrepreneur. Your grandfather came up from Mexico City doing TV, radio, restaurants, everything. Your parents in a franchise that was over 100 years old.
Yeah.
So you grew up inside the business owner's household, right?
Yes, 100%.
So my first question to you is, what's something you understood about running a business as a kid that most people don't learn until they are like decades in?
Yes, well, you're right. I am a third generation entrepreneur. I always laugh and say that I didn't necessarily learn about business. I was born into it. So, yes, I think one of the things that stands out to me most is probably like anybody that grew up in a sports family or an arts family or a family that was into some particular type of trade or skill. Like my wife's family, they grew up and they're extremely musically inclined. So she played harp and cello. And for me, I grew up where there was a business owner always in the household, answering a call, answering an email. So we weren't necessarily playing a harp or piano or cello or something like that. But yeah, I think one of the things I understood early on, which actually my stepfather was renowned for repeating this over and over, which is just that his perspective on business was a lot like his perspective on generosity, that everybody should experience it. Everybody should experience what it's like to run a business. And he made it feel very, very normal to start a business. And I think that's something that a lot of people, they don't start their first business until they're into their 40s, 50s, even towards retirement age. So I think one of the things I understood early on growing up in a business owner's household is that it's not as daunting as maybe the internet or as it may seem growing up, like, oh, there's this the business owner, and then like, the light shines around them and the clouds part and it's a business owner. Wow. It's just, I think I so appreciate my grandparents and my parents making it feel normal. So that way I could, in essence, have belief earlier on in life that I could own something and build something, and that it wasn't going to cost me an arm and a leg and my firstborn to have something like that, if I wanted it growing up.
Yeah, that is amazing because you didn't have to study this. You basically absorbed it at the dinner table, watching your parents, watching your grandfathers, and before you even knew, like this is like a skill. And
Absolutely.
the way you talk about it as well is interesting because a lot of people can put like a daunting light on being an entrepreneur. And the way
Yes.
you talked about it just now is like, it's a normal thing, right? You grew up around it. So to you, this is like a normal way of like going about life, which is, and then which leads me to what I wanted to touch next with you, which is I find very interesting. You worked in that family franchise from 2010 all the way to 2024. So that's
Hmm.
like 14 years in a business that had been around over a century. We're talking,
Yeah.
established processes, being them good or bad. We're talking, like presence and referrals and network and all of this, like being suppliers, like really established, and that's
Yep.
a long runway in something that is already established. And then you left to start your own thing from scratch. So
Hmm.
my question to you is, what did 14 years inside a century-old machine teach you that you're now installing into other people's business?
Yeah. Let me actually, I love how you referenced and caught that aspect of the dinner table, because it's 100% where my business education started. And although, yes, I did have 14 years in this, this franchise, the business world, so to speak, a lot of it, the funniest thing is a lot of the things that I cover now with small business owners that are in that struggling mom and pop stage where they're wearing 1,000 hats a day and everything is at the palm of their hand and they have their hand in all the cookie jars, so to speak. A lot of that did start at the dinner table. I remember, I'll tell you a story. In that franchise world, it was a ballroom and Latin dance franchise. So I met my wife there, and we were dance competitors traveling around the country and around the world competing and teaching and doing all the glamorous things in the dance world. And I remember at the dinner table, I would meet other franchisees that would come in to consult in my parents' business. And one of the things that was so striking to me that I talk to entrepreneurs a lot now is that the personality that they came into the business with doesn't have to change. It doesn't have to, they don't have to become now all of a sudden go from being this introverted, for lack of a better term, an introverted personality, typical type of person in that regard. They don't have to change who they are in order to succeed in business. Because I saw people from all walks of life, literally all parts of the world, owning their own business and having completely different personalities. And there were men, there were women, there were young, there were, I'll call them wiser, elderly in their wisdom. And there were those that had come from a very similar background to mine, entrepreneurial. And then there were some that had come from a background that had nothing to do with owning a business. They had come from a trade background where, maybe their family owned a farm. And I remember one gentleman in particular, his family owned a farm and they peeled potatoes for fun. That was his version of the dinner table. And so I think one of the things that I learned that I talk to people about now, of course, is the systems. It's getting your leadership. I teach a 6-step framework where it's leadership, marketing, and sales. It's your product offering, your management, and your cash flow. And if you get these 6 things right, we can double your business in 12 to 24 months. It's really not extremely complicated, but one of the things that a lot of times holds business owners back, that to answer your question that I talk about all the time, is the fact that they have to, in a way, find their identity, or they feel like they have to alter their identity as the business owner in order to succeed. I got to be like Gary Vee or Grant Cardone, or I got to be like such and such person that I aspire to be like. And a lot of times what I find myself telling people is, yes, of course, there's personal growth involved. And, you have to systematize your business, and there's all the things that go into succeeding. But one of the things that I find holds specifically small business owners in that mom and pop stage back is, in essence, they're trying to pretend their way to a bigger business in terms of who they are as a leader, as somebody who helps train and onboard staff and who interacts with clients. And so, yeah, I find that one of the things that I come back to that I learned at the dinner table back in the day was that, of course, there's personal and professional growth involved, but who they are, the essence of who they are as a business owner and who they're coming into that as, does not necessarily have to change in order for them to succeed.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that is a good segue to, I want to make it concrete now in terms of like what you actually do. So my understanding, and I want you to, build on this, is you work with premium B2C, business to consumer, service-based brands, not just a pet groomer or like a premium, like I would say like a premium pet groomer is more in your niche than any pet groomer. So that's just an example, right? When one of them comes to you, still running on instinct, still lacking processes, like what's the first thing that you install? I'm sure it's a phased approach, right? So where's like the first move on your end?
Yeah. So the first thing that we do, which is in any industry, this is normally where we start, is to evaluate where we're currently at, right? So the first thing I do in my small business flight plan, which is a 12-month program, inevitably we're going to install all 6 parts of the framework, which I mentioned a minute ago. But typically what we do is we, of course, take this very thorough evaluation, and there's going to be initial things that are the most needed. We'll call them the red flags. And then there are going to be the things that we know we need to get to somewhat soon, but they're not going to dismantle the business in the near future or prevent us from growing. So we call those yellow flags. And then, of course, there are the things that they're doing really well. And a lot of times I'll say we don't need to just catch you doing things wrong. We need to catch you doing things right. And when we catch you doing things right, those are the things that we want you to keep doing. They're adding to your growth. They're adding to the customer retention, your staff retention, whatever it is. But I will tell you that inevitably in all these reports that we do, most of the business owners' time, they're doing great typically in marketing and sales and their leadership decisions. They kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing, their target audience. They're really great on the front end of their business. They've generated sales. They know how to access their audience. One of the things that we always come back to is how they're managing the actual, like you said, the processes or the system. When it comes to the managing of their business, that is the part that things tend to go haywire. And that's typically where we start. So I help people install a 5 meeting system into their business where we take something like, I need to, our sales numbers are down, or our leads are fluctuating too much. And instead of a business owner that's typically doing emergency meetings, and that's kind of their meeting structure, where we tend to start is actually helping them install a system of meetings. So that way there is a place to address all the things that feel like emergencies, which some of them genuinely are, but most of them are something that could wait till 4 p.m. and not 11 a.m. And so, yeah, one of the first places that we start out of all the areas that you could possibly think of is helping them actually know how to create a meeting system in their business where they're talking to the right people and the right people are in the right meetings and they actually have a place to converse with the right people at the right time. And one of the things that I really, really emphasize, especially in the beginning when we first talk to somebody, is I emphasize the fact that being proactive is a lot obviously more profitable than being reactive, but that doesn't just happen on accident. And installing a meeting system and not just lending the business to having emergency meetings all the time, that helps a business get on track a lot faster than the typical revolving door type of business where staff is coming in and out every year or two, or customer retention is only, depending on the business model, 3 to 6 months long, and they're having a really tough time keeping customers. A lot of that comes all the way back to how they're actually managing their business.
Perfect. And last time we talked, you said something that I think half of my audience needs to hear. You said most coaches, they preach consistency, but they don't actually do it, right? Because doing it requires a system, not willpower, right? And
Yeah.
from what I could gather from you, you clearly do it. So how do you turn intention into consistency in your own business? You know, what's the actual mechanism that you use?
Yes. So I want to talk about two things that for anyone that's listening to this that has great intentions, great ideas, maybe has a track record of doing some things really well and then it tapers off and it falls off after a month or two, like some of our workout routines or eating habits, like anything else outside of business. The two things that I would reference, the first one is the most important. And the first one is you would think it would be some type of app or some type of physical planner or something like that, which all those I'm going to get to in a second. But the first thing that helped me go from, let's say, running it on willpower, which even though I've kind of been consistent the whole time, there were times I was absolutely exhausted because it's all up in my head. The first thing that completely changed my life in regards to being consistent was actually allowing somebody to keep me accountable. And I specifically use the word somebody because it's very easy for me to let my app down or let my AI VA, let's say, well, I can just turn you off. I'm just going to mute you for another day. And I've tried all the apps and I've paid for that. I mean, I've put money into some of these things and it all pales in comparison to having a real human being that knows what my goals are, that understands how I'm trying to get there, and is somebody that I literally have to text every Monday to say, these were my weekly wins last week. These were the things that I didn't get done. And this is what I plan on doing this week. And what's funny is even just a simple 3 bullet point text to, even as a business coach, somebody that I have coaching from, practicing what I preach, even something like that by far has been the most impactful thing to actually helping me be consistent. And then, what's funny is I know a lot of your audience will understand what a flywheel is. The flywheel effect essentially is you have a series of things that you do and they get easier as you do it. AKA there's a compounding simplicity and a compounding easiness, we'll call it, to doing whatever you started doing. So the flywheel effect with this is it was the hardest to be accountable and to actually stay consistent in the beginning. But after weeks and weeks and months of these kind of relationships with not always the same person, but the same idea with a variety of people, it has gotten easier to just be consistent, even if maybe do I still need to text? I don't know. I don't, maybe I wouldn't for a few months and then maybe I'd go back to normal. Who knows? But the point is it's extreme. It's way easier than when I started to just get done what I know I would need to get done because I know there's the accountability there. But I did need it a lot more in the beginning than I per se need it now. And the second thing that I will say is a human being to be accountable to is still only as effective as you have systems to work with to actually get done what you need to get done. So for me, I have what I call my goal achievement system. It's a 5-step system where I use a few different digital products. For me, I love Trello and what's called Hero on a Mission. And if those two resources that I have no affiliate links for or anything like that, they're totally free forever. Both of those combined with, I'm still a physical planner guy, even though I'm a millennial. I love the actual slowing down process of, what do I need to get done this week? So combining the accountability that I have with a real human with digital and physical resources that help me plan and think and do all the things that are necessary to actually getting the work done. Both of those things combined have been we'll call it the secret sauce, even though it's not that much of a secret, to actually staying consistent, whether I was writing my book, my wife and I in our dance career, or even coaching business owners now. all those two things have been the biggest proponents in helping me be consistent over the years.
There we go. That's the gap right there. Everybody knows what to do, but like almost nobody has built the thing that makes them actually do it. Like you said, it's very easy to let an app down, but once you have this system in place and you hold yourself accountable, and I can see that what you said, the more you do, the easier it gets.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and the funny thing about I'll tell you a story about, I was working with a marketing agency. They had reached out, and of course, I also understand the marketing world. It's part of my business coaching flight plan. So I understood in a way. I was kind of wondering, why do you need me? And it was very early on in my coaching consulting journey, and I was chatting with them. And the more I chatted with them, the more I realized, wow, this person knows a lot. They have a lot of great ideas. And in fact, they actually have everything really right in front of them to grow their business. In a way, I was thinking to myself, man, I can't believe that they don't have more clients and they don't have more leads. And like, I was in a way kind of dumbfounded at like, why is their business where it's at? And the more we got into it, the more we realized like, oh, they just needed somebody. And this is a very particular circumstance. They needed somebody to be accountable to. So that way, when it did come time for them, it was summertime. They lived in California. They loved to go to the beach and do all the things. And it was like day after day, the flywheel works in the opposite direction. The more you say, oh, I'll do it later, the easier it gets to say to everything, well, I'll do all that later too. And so the flywheel works in both ways. And it was really cool to see even just something as simple as, oh, now you have a coach to be accountable to, and you have somebody that understands the work you need to do, and of course can help in the actual systemizing and coaching in that regard. But it was just as valuable to her, literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of value for her, to just have somebody that she was able to be accountable to, that still did some of the business stuff, of course. But yeah, it's funny how powerful that is in the positive direction, but also in we'll call it the negative direction.
Yeah, totally. And I wanted, you mentioned something interesting there about, leads and growing the business, and, the marketing, bringing the opportunities, the commercial aspect of like actually internalizing those opportunities into clients. So let's talk about how businesses actually grows, because I think people romanticize this part a lot. For example, when you land a new client and think about the last handful you signed, perhaps, where did they actually came from? Like, walk me through, like, honestly, because I don't think it's all like they watched my videos and then they called me, that there is more to it, right?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And my business, like most businesses I've seen, has gone through two phases, and none of these phases are evil or bad or shouldn't be done, or I should skip that phase and get to the second phase first. But there are two phases that I've seen that are completely necessary, I feel like, for every business. And the first phase is your own current network, referrals, word of mouth. It is what I call clients within arm's reach. If I can touch them from my own personal life into from that position, then that is a great first place to start. And that's where most of my initial business came from, which is people I already knew from the franchise world, people that I already knew from the ministry background and the book publishing that I did, and people that I had already met in my career along the way. And so, and in my local community. And, but to answer your question, inevitably, not that list ran out per se, but inevitably I wanted to scale my business bigger and faster than my own personal arms could reach, and constantly, touch different clients in different sectors. And inevitably I wanted to get into things like paid ads, and I wanted to get into creating organic clients from YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn and such. And that actually challenged me, because when I was in the referral, word of mouth, within arm's reach space, I could text them personally, I could call them personally, I could email them personally. When I got to maybe more of we'll call it the scaling phase, it was then that I actually was challenged with, I have to create processes and systems and things that are going to do some of the rut work for me. Like when somebody wants to schedule because they saw my ad or they went on my website or they looked at my YouTube video and they grabbed a free resource or whatever that it was. From there, I needed emails in place so that way they are immediately going to get the free resource, and then they're going to immediately get my calendar link to schedule a call. And a lot of these things that I was unfamiliar with that I needed to automate. And what I thought initially was, oh, well, if I go away from the personal touch side of things that I'm used to this, I thought of it as less human version of it. These clients are going to be kind of frustrated about that. Or, I'm going to actually lose business because it's less personalized along that pipeline journey. And what I found out is people appreciate the fact that they get their free resource right away and they don't have to wait on me to email it to them. And there's a lot in the systems that people in that sales funnel that they appreciate. They appreciate that it's super easy to book a call with me and they can choose whatever time's easy and they don't have to constantly text back and forth with me. Oh, well, when works for you? Oh, well, that doesn't work for me. And, what about Sunday? Oh, what about 2 p.m.? Oh, well, I can only do 3 p.m. Like it was actually going from that, the within arm's reach referral phase and the word of mouth phase to the last few clients that I've gotten that have, most of them come from either my organic content, which is just on social media, LinkedIn, YouTube. They either saw me on the organic content, or similar to something like this, they saw one of my paid ads that was specifically on Meta or Google, and so what was interesting is I didn't meet that client, I didn't touch the client, let's say, until they were literally on the phone with me on the sales call. So, and for them, it was like, man, this was so easy. I loved your calendar link. I appreciated all the free resources. I got them immediately right away. And to me, I was like, wow, that was no work for me. And it was all good for you. Like, I'm so glad I went through the trouble to setting up all of this on the back end so that way it could be easy for both of us. And yeah, I've seen most of my initial business come from that within arm's reach, referral, word of mouth, my own personal network in the beginning. But when I wanted to actually scale and start to build a more flywheel effect type of business, getting into more of the automations, more of the like we said, paid ads and things like that, that was necessary for me. But it was challenging at first to know how to set that all up in a way that was both easy for me and it was easy and still personal for the customer too.
Yeah, totally. You basically systematize other people's business for a living. Yeah. But be honest with me, like how easy is to see the gaps in your own business, because the systems that coach, being the system, it's kind of like own kind of trap. And there is this phrase that I refer when I touch on this subject with founders and especially people that, operate in other people's business, helping other people's business, like the shoemaker's son always goes barefoot, right? With that idea, with the idea of like, the expert sometimes neglects their own domain at home, right? You clearly, have doing a great job at systematizing this and putting it to run. But, when you look inside your own system, do you still like are able to like criticize it in a way that like you can see the gaps and then like want to work on them?
Yeah. So funny story. There was a 3-month time span. I think this was 2 years ago that I worked on my website, and that's like kind of all I did. I mean, I had a few clients at the time, but I was the business owner that couldn't read the label from inside the milk carton. I couldn't realize that like, oh, I'm actually not being productive and I'm not actually growing my business. I'm in that cycle of, oh, I think I'm doing things that are growing my business, but I'm actually just afraid or I'm actually just I just can't see what I need. And it's as true for me. And I will say to every business owner out there, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that it is so hard to read your own ingredient label. Like it's so hard because you put literally hundreds, if not thousands of hours more into thinking about your business and imagining where it could go. And you think about the unique way you could do such and such. And you literally have 100x, 1,000x more experience with your business than the client who just jumped on your website for the first time. And so sometimes it's so hard to come out of that space and think like, oh, well, how would my niche really, how do they think about AI right now, and create messaging around that? Or if you're a landscaping company and you're looking to be a premium brand, it's not just, your not to offend the dollar store, but it's not just the dollar store landscaper. We're a premium luxury Ferrari level brand landscaping company. How do I think like the person who has only ever worked with the dollar store version, of the landscaper, and how can we position ourselves and all that? It's so funny. It gets so difficult. Actually, the more you think about it, it gets harder to imagine, well, what is the new customer thinking? And so I read a book a long time ago. It is by Liz Waisman. It's called Rookie Smarts. And it was one of my favorite books that I still go through at least once a year today, through audiobook, because, I don't have time to read 100 books every year. But that book was amazing because it helped me, really gave me the humility to realize, like, even I need a coach, even I need somebody that can come in from the outside. And even if they don't do what I do, haven't been where I've been, maybe even if they're just somebody who became a client and they're a new client of mine, I love to ask new clients like, hey, so I'd love to get your perspective. Like, was it easy to do business with me? Was it, did you find, like, what was your favorite asset? Was it my YouTube, my website? Like, tell me about your journey. And they will say some of the most unique things that I would have never thought of. Like, really, that was what stood out to you? I thought that was just a random text blurb on my website or my blog. Like, I didn't think it was weighty, but for them, it was super valuable. And so, things really appreciating somebody that's still in that rookie stage, or somebody who's they don't know you that well or your business that well, that has led to some of the best, you take what's relevant and you throw away the rest, but that has led to some of the most impactful changes I've made to my business, because they said something that was a little off the wall or that I didn't expect, but only they would see that, because you're right. It's so hard for you to read your own manual, so to speak. And that is, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is something that for every business owner out there, and especially founders, It's really, really important to recognize that. And I would totally recommend that book. And again, I get no affiliate from that. It's just an amazing book that totally, revamps my business every year.
I appreciate the honest answer on that, really. And Kenneth, AI, is it a threat or an opportunity for what you do? You are in deeply human business, right? You do coaching, you bank on trust and accountability. Like, where does AI actually help you, and where would it ruin the thing that makes coaching work?
So this is a question I get asked a lot, actually. And I think it's a question that really every business owner should ask themselves in regards to their own business, because I think you'll come to some really, really great conclusions. And just don't be afraid to ask the question that Guy's asking right now. For me in my business, because mine is very IP driven, very intellectual property driven. And I initially was scared. I was initially, oh man, I pivoted into coaching at the wrong time. Like, AI is going to take over everything. And there are two facets that, to your question, that I want to address. The first is, you said, is it an opportunity or is it a threat? And from my perspective, I've seen it be both for me. It's the threat, though, is different than the opportunity. If you think about AI, at least all the aspects of artificial intelligence that I've used, every aspect of AI that I've used has always been backward facing. In essence, it's taking information that has already been created. It's taking data, let's just call it, right, and it is compiling it, it is processing it, and then it is packaging it for me as a business owner. which is great because it is so good when I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I just ask AI, ChatGPT, and I'm just, go to Gemini and say, I'm thinking of this. It's kind of like this. What word am I thinking of? And so it helps me with immense things. It's made email campaigns and content for social and LinkedIn post. It's made everything so much easier when it comes to all of the backward facing processes. But when it comes to anything creative or any level of something that has to do with ingenuity or problem solving, or I'll even go back to the accountability, anything that's relationally, we'll call it relational equity, those things are still vastly lacking that I've found. And as an author, as a ballroom dance competitor, champion teacher, as somebody who's extremely creative and likes to bring a lot of personalized, just we'll call it personalization into the way that I coach and the way that we obviously tailor all of the frameworks to people's businesses. I find that AI, it's very, very unpredictable. It makes a lot of things up still. I feel like it's a threat to someone's creativity and their actual innovation in their business. So in other words, when you're trying to scale, when you're trying to systematize and actually create something that's, we'll say new, you're going from a mom and pop business to a professionalized business, or you're going from founding a business to actually building and establishing a business in the market. That takes a lot of creativity and ingenuity and innovation to separate yourself in the marketplace. And I find AI is really novice when it comes to that. And the threat is that me as a business owner, that I can lean on that and think that just because it gives me answers, I can think that automatically those are the right answers. And,
Exactly.
but the opportunity is and for me, I prefer to work with other humans in these kind of things. Once me and a few other people really, really create something and innovate something and allow ourselves to move forward, like I said, all of AI is really backward facing data. The human mind and the human can actually create forward facing things that have never been thought of, things that have never, I didn't think of it that way. I've never seen it that way. Most of our imagination is forward facing and most of our innovation is forward creating. So AI can only reflect back and compile and do that. So I think that the opportunity with AI though is that we can take the things that we've already done that only the human mind can do, which is create, innovate, and establish new things for the future. But AI comes in right behind it and can say, okay, well, how does all this data that I have access to, how does it make it easier for you to apply that or implement that or systematize that? Like I had a friend that created this very unique 3D printing business, and we immediately created, we had thought of all the things and done all the brainstorming that we do, but then we used AI to be the factory for us, to write the emails for us, to create and think of social ideas for us. And then we came in, of course, on the back end to establish and bring in our own, again, like that next paint layer of creativity and whatnot. But yeah, I think both AI has a threat to shut down our creativity. That's the threat, but it is the opportunity, or it has the opportunity to ramp up our actual application or our implementation processes. And that is literally saved me thousands of dollars because of the hundreds of hours that I would have spent otherwise. So it is absolutely both. My request to business owners is don't let it shut off your mind, because your mind is really unique and it can only do the things it can do, and AI can't do those yet. But don't be afraid to bring AI on the back end of that and now use it to actually implement and install all the ideas and the things that you have, because really AI is hundreds of thousands of times faster at it than our own brain and hands can type and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. I could not agree more. And I think I've heard similar answers to this when I heard, like, I was hearing high level like CEOs, like NVIDIA CEOs or other CEOs that are at the forefront of it. They kind of have the same stance of what you just said. AI is really good of like consolidating data and scale the information that already exists, but we humans are forward thinking by nature, and we need to be able to use AI to help us systematize what's available for us in terms of information, make sense of that information. But like you said, don't shut off your brain and just trust blindly, whatever they say. Have critical thinking always on, the decision and the way forward based on the data you're being presented. And even the data, have critical thinking about where does the data come from, right? Is it like data from like the source, or is it like an interpretation of the source? And, if it is, who is actually interpreting it, and what the, angle they're looking at, etc. So
yes,
critical thinking will always be a good force to use alongside with AI if you really want to take the most out of this, right?
Yeah. The analogy I use, and this is something that's stuck in my mind, is AI is the printing press and I am the author. And the printing press is only going to mass produce and is only going to bring into the world better than I ever could the things that I've already created, the things that I've already written, the stories that I've already concocted in my mind. And so AI to me is more like the printing press. And in essence, it does something that it would take the human a bazillion hours to do, but it does it, far, far, far greater capacity. But the printing press has never written a book. And in terms of, it's never created a book. It's only ever received from the author and then produced. So in other words, never neglect yourself as the author, as the business owner, whatever you want to call it. And but don't disrespect the fact that the printing press can print way more books than you can. And so, it's a great tool for sure. But like you said, critical thinking, the human brain is amazing for that. And thank God we can critically think. Most of us.
Most of us. Yes, exactly. Kenneth, last one, and sit with it before you answer. Take your time. If you could wave a magic wand, okay, and remove one thing holding Kenneth coaches back from growing the way you would know it could. One bottleneck, one constraint, one point of friction. What would you take out, and why that one? I love this question because I love this question because a lot of people would like to add things, right? But when I ask about removing, it does get them to think.
What would I like to remove?
A bottleneck, a constraint, a point of friction.
Yeah, this is the real answer. It may be the wrong answer for the audience. I don't know, but maybe people can relate with this. I would absolutely. The bottleneck is always me. The bottleneck is always one of the things I teach is creating a decision-making threshold for every business owner. In other words, how much information or trust or all the factors that go into making a decision, how much of that do I need for X, Y, or Z type of decision? And for me, I've always found that if I could remove anything, it would be parts of me that wait a little bit too long before making the right decision, or abandon even the idea because I don't know that I should reach out to that person because they're too successful. They don't need me. It still comes back to, I'm still a solopreneur and I have some contractors that I have on my team, but it always comes back to the bottleneck is me as the business owner. It comes back to, am I willing to take that risk? Am I willing to put myself out there like that? Am I willing to do a little more here in order to have a little bit of greater result in the long run? Or, it's all those things that only I can make that decision. Only I can hire that person, or only I can, send a proposal to that client. Like the bottleneck is wherever my either belief is or is. So maybe that's not the answer you're looking for, but if I could, and this, I know I've seen this with so many big businesses that are based around a person or a brand. The person is the brand. a lot of times what they would say to this question is, man, I wish I could just like remove me and put the business in there, and that way the business could scale and it wouldn't be on my face, or wouldn't be because of my voice, or it would be because the business is great, not because, oh, well, everybody loves Kenneth. Like, why isn't Kenneth on my call? Oh, I thought this was Kenneth Coaches, So it's just a funny, that would be that's my real answer is I think I'm still the bottleneck in my own business. And of course that's like how I coach. It's why I have people in my life that coach me as well and help me, like you mentioned earlier, see the things that I can't see because I'm in my own bottle and I can't read my own ingredient list. I can't read always what's going on. So yeah, that's my honest answer. And I appreciate you letting me think about it, because I was scanning through my business. I'm like, I think it all comes back to me.
You would be surprised the amount of people that have the same answer as you. And in my opinion, is a process, right? When we start something, it usually revolves around us. Like you said, we're the brand, we're the delivery, we are wearing all the hats. And as we grow, and that is the difference, I think, between having a good idea and having a business, is that we are able to establish processes and put people in place that can work on those processes and tools that can allow to free up some of our time, so then we can work like on the business, not like for the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's a process of like understanding how to create that leverage within what you do. But
Yes.
Kenneth, thank you for all of those incredible honest operator answers. They were exactly what this show is about. It was really, really great. Someone who actually lived inside, coming back to the century-old business, and now, is a solopreneur installing, that discipline into other people's business while, being honest about, the gap between, where you are and where you want to be. I think that is the real operator conversation that the show aims to highlight. Let me ask you this: where should people go to find you, to find the book, to find the academy?
Yes. So for me, the main place that everyone should go is my website. It is kennethcoaches.com. And if you go to kennethcoaches.com, I have a book a call link on there for anybody that may be out there that is specifically interested in going from that mom and pop stage to the professional business model, which I call the small business flight plan. And there's also, I will say, at kennethcoaches.com, there's at the very top, there's a link in the navigation menu for free resources. I have over a dozen free resources that there's no affiliate, there's no nothing. They are free resources that are free forever. There's assessments, softwares, PDFs, calculators. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on there. And what I tell people is that if someone is just starting a business, they could use these, I think there's 13 free resources to at least get to their first 100,000 in revenue. That they could do that with a brain and without a coach, that they could get there. And then of course, there's the small business flight plan after that. But yeah, kennethcoaches.com is where they should go. My social links are on there. There's a link to my book. It's all on there.
And as always, this episode is sponsored by Inevitable Flow. If you want a predictable revenue engine instead of carrying it on your own back, the link is in the description of the show. Kenneth, thanks for coming on the Inevitable Cast.
Yeah, so good, man. What a great conversation. Thanks, Guy.